So this is the current state of blockchain. I'm here with Nick and Crypto Beatles and Christian Kumar, and I am waiting on Alex Lightman and Sam Elise and Miko, but you guys just jump in when you can. If you just raise your hand over there, the team will take care of it. So we're going to talk about the current state of blockchain, and we'll go into a few special questions that we've curated. But why don't we start off with introductions? I know Nick and Christian are back, so they'll have time to say something new. But Crypto Beetle, do you want to kick it off for us?
Sure. Yeah, I'm a Christian, husband, father. I built one of the largest service companies in California. I'm the founder and builder of Monarch Wallet and Monarch Pay, and happy to be here.
Thanks for joining us. Nick, would you like to plug Divi, one of the best masternode projects on the planet?
Yeah, if you were just watching, I just introduced myself, but I'm Nick Saponaro. I'm the Chief Information Officer at the Divi project, which is a cryptocurrency and blockchain that is aimed at making cryptocurrency easier to access and use. Thank you for having me back for this panel. Exciting.
Appreciate it. And Christian.
Yeah, Christian Kemal. We run a venture fund with sole focus on the blockchain space, or how I like to describe it, value transfer solutions, mostly regulatory technologies, legal technologies, and identity. Here in Newport Beach, California.
Awesome. I see Miko is trying to jump on. I know Alex was trying as well, but let's go ahead and get the conversation started. So today we're going to focus a bit on as the current state of blockchain, you and I and all of us here, we're more familiar with it than the average person, but I'd really love to dive into some of the macroeconomics of what's happening from COVID and how blockchain can fix it. The current state of blockchain is actually probably more robust than the average person like my grandmother would think. So very excited for you guys to dig into that around how we can use blockchain to kind of recoup some of this lost prosperity that we're going through. I see Christian smiling. I'm going to pick on you.
Well, you know me. You prompt me with something that I'm talking for an hour on end and don't let anybody.
That's okay. I'll rein you in, man.
So that's why I was biting my tongue. Well, I think what we see on a daily basis, so we see a couple hundred projects a year. So we probably have a little bit wider view than most, and we've been doing this since like 2015. And so what we did initially, we set out to write some investment thesis papers, because as an investor, as you know, you want to time the state of the technology. It's all about timing at the end of the day. So that's why we actually do this talk about state of blockchain every month, and have been doing that for like 5 years. My partner created the Ethereum units here in Orange County, and so that was always kind of the starting points, and we'll still keep doing that. So I'll just rattle down like the obvious ones, and when anybody wants to jump in, take over, I'm happy to let you talk. So I think most people still don't realize what are the main tenets of blockchain. I have to re-explain this every single day. So just real quick, it's like the Bitcoin white paper introduced the digital bearer instrument, so the equivalent of what we have in the real world in terms of coins and paper money. Actually, it's coin. But then secondarily, it created the ideas and basic functions for smart contracts. And then lastly, most importantly, most likely long-term, is that of the decentralized autonomous organization. Bitcoin did not create cash, right? So it set out to do that. It set out to create peer-to-peer cash, but it's obviously missing some of the major tenets. Just name one, which is that of a minting function. If people refer to this metaphor of like Bitcoin mining world, then it's missing the minting function, as in you need to actually create a unit of account, as in what people understand as what is the value. And whenever I make this presentation to the state of blockchain, there's one color in there, and Alex, who's, I don't know if he's on there, he likes that slide particularly. It's a yellow banana. Everything else in my presentation is always blue. I'm colorblind. And so the yellow banana has a Bitcoin price. So if you expect to see that, then you're sorely mistaken, quite obviously. You will never see 0.000017 on any type of fruit for that matter. So the point here being is we still have failed to create this basic thing, as in what Satoshi set out to do, create peer-to-peer cash. We still don't have that, and that should be the major focus for now. What I mean by that major focus is the on and off ramps to the legacy systems, and these on and off ramps you have to implement seamless. As in, there can't be friction in terms of fees, there can't be friction in terms of time. And there's a little bits here and there that we see and start to implement. Once these take over, then things that Robert are working on, etc., will scale. Before that, they won't scale, because if you're looking at cryptocurrencies as an investment instrument, if you actually like onboard and already lose 1, 10, 15%, depending on what onboarding instrument you're using, that's not a very good experience, right? And then also, if you actually want to move out, and as you probably know, custodial exchanges typically penalize moving out of their system, and that's kind of the main function, obviously, today of a peg, misguidedly typically called stable coins. There's no such thing as a stable coin. That's intellectual time travel to the days when we had commodity money, right? But so yeah, so I mean, Tether and any other peg was created and the utility right now, so that traders don't have to leave the cryptocurrencies exchanges, which are multi-massive online player games, right? Which is great. I mean, I love multi-massive online player games, and they should exist and should have existed before we created these crappy financial systems that we have today. So then moving fast forward, so what's important to understand is what is the current state of technology if you want to advance it. So the current state of technology, starting with the most simple thing, is money. Current money is mostly DLTs, it's mostly distributed ledger technology. If you're sending me $100, right, then you call up your bank, you log into your banking interface, you instruct your bank to adjust your ledger, then overnight it reconciles with the Federal Reserve's ledger, and then next day, if I'm lucky, my bank adjusts my ledger. So it's a federal DLT. Blockchains are the opposite. Blockchain is a unified ledger that everybody gets to write to. So once we implement that, obviously, at that point in time, we don't need banks. But it goes back to, you need to finish the on and off ramps. That's when 100% of the focus needs to be right now. Don't invent any more.
He's gone.
I would agree, and Christian, you're hitting a bit of a tech snag anyway, so it's a good time to actually transition to one of the creators of some of that technology, Mr. Robert Beadles. Beadles, would you like to talk a little bit about how blockchain works for your product? I mean, that is some of the principles of it that people might not understand.
Yeah, so with Monarch Wallet and Monarch Pay, basically we plug into all these different blockchains out there. And can you see me okay, or there's this white pop-up box here? Do you guys see it as well?
Yeah, I just had to get rid of it too. They're sending a poll out. Everyone feel free to
that should be going to the chat. But so with Monarch, we plug into all these different blockchains, so that way people have access to them in a very simple way, where they always own and control their seed, meaning that nobody else out there has control of their funds. And we've seen time and time again where all these centralized exchanges, people have money, they put them on the exchange, for whatever reason, they leave it there and then it's gone. With Monarch, that can't happen, because no matter, even if Monarch goes out of business, you can just take your seed, you can take your key and go put it on another, decentralized wallet, and presto changeo, just like magic, you got access to all your funds again. And what we've done with Monarch Wallet is we bring all the best services in crypto into one place through one login. So that way they can access all these cool different things, making it a very, simple user experience for people. And then with Monarch Pay, we created this really simple decentralized platform that allows merchants to start accepting stable cryptocurrencies, because you'll see we're never going to get adoption in cryptocurrency unless we have something that's stable. Businesses can't use volatile cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and stay in business. You've seen where it drops down to $3,800. What happens if you're holding all your money in Bitcoin? If you're a business and you got to make payroll, you got to pay bills, pay rent, pay mortgage, all that kind of stuff, it's game over for a lot of people. So with Monarch, we use stables, and it doesn't require you to understand how to use. It doesn't require you to understand how to use all the different types of cryptos. It's very much like a PayPal experience. And in our next release, it should be coming out here pretty quickly, is going to be very similar to PayPal. It's really easy for merchants to accept recurring payments and use crypto. Okay, Christian. But yeah, anyways, it's we do all kinds of cool stuff for blockchain.
I love it.
And there was two.
Oh, I'm there twice now.
Can you
No.
guys hear me?
Oh, is that
We
Miss
can.
Sam?
Yeah, I've been on for a little bit. I had to dial in because I'm having horrible tech difficulties. So I'm here. You just can't see me.
Hi.
And I even did my makeup.
Were you here when Christian said that stable coins are nonsense, and then Beatles said we need stable coins? Because for those of you who don't know, Miss Elise is like the guru of stable coins. So very excited for her to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, nobody's going to use regular cryptocurrency for day-to-day transactions when they're afraid of speculation. They're afraid of it going to zero. And all of our current stable coins and stable tokens, they obviously need some work because we need to make sure that they're actually asset-backed. They're actually worth $1. People will spend them just like they will real dollars. But people, you'll see. I mean, that's why we don't have adoption. How are people going to be using Bitcoin to buy coffee? You can't. It takes too long. You're afraid of losing all your money. But if you have stable dollars, digital dollars, whatever you want to call them, people will use them just like they do regular dollars.
I think stablecoins is a really interesting part to get into that we haven't touched on in any of the previous panels. And I'm sure for those of you that trade, you saw, around mid-March when the crash was going on, people were getting out of Bitcoin and into Tether at $1.07. That's not supposed to happen, right? But they saw the free fall and they freaked out. And that's what we do. We monitor these assets so that we can understand the tokenomics behind it. But really quickly, I see Alex is on. I've seen that Miko's trying to get on and Sam is on. Miss Sam, you were here first. If you could do a quick intro and then we'll let Alex give his intro.
Sure, thank you. Well, I am Elise Sam, and as you said, I actually wrote the first book on stablecoins, and re-released the guide early this year, and then we are actually releasing an extensive guide on called the Stablecoin Economy. And it actually goes through and breaks down each stable coin, and it's unbiased, and it's just there for education. I'm working with a couple of people to stick it in universities, actually. So I'm really excited because I've done that with my editor and a 17-year-old that I mentor in blockchain. So I am the co-founder and a director at GiveNation and Women in Blockchain International as well. And I advise Path Global, and I'm the CMO. So I started in the crypto space because I was a nurse and chemist, and I was hit by a semi-truck and got training from Dmitry Buterin. So I've been very blessed, and I'm very happy to be here. So thank you guys very much.
Thanks so much.
Hopefully she wasn't literally hit by a semi-truck, right?
No, she really was, like,
Oh, wow.
legit.
I
Like,
literally-
it's a fascinating story.
Wow. Hopefully you're all better.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm super. So thank you so much. And actually, Robert, I'm really excited to meet you because Team McAfee, we went after you to do our business partnerships with the media intelligence that we were doing a few months ago. So we had spoken a couple of times, but to be on panel with you is really exciting. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Happy to be here with you.
Love it. Alex, are you still
Okay.
with us? Hold on, Christian. Hold on. Alex, are you still with us? Nope.
Hey, there he is.
No,
Christian,
yes.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
So should
When
I
Alex
explain?
we'll pause and let him
what-
go. Good. Okay, you saved me. Saved by the Alex. Saved by Mr. Lightman.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now, sir.
Great. Hello, I'm Alex Lightman. Nice to meet you. I'm the CEO of Praxis Digital,
hear him.
and you can't hear me?
Yeah,
You're good. You're good.
Great. And I've written 18 crypto white papers, and I'm an advisor to a number of crypto companies, and I also advise governments. I have had 2 of my COVID-19 proposals that are indirectly put in to Donald Trump accepted. So I put ventilators on his agenda a while back. And also I'm trying to reboot the U.S. pharmaceutical production so we don't have so much in China and India. And I'm happy to go with the program now.
I love it. Real quick, just so I can baseline, your opinion on stablecoins, yay or nay?
Well, I think that any economy will work better. I'm a big fan of the MIT Harvard work on economic complexity, and they basically say the more product offerings you have, the more unique bundled offerings you have, and the better the economy is. It's the number one indicator for future economic growth. So yay to stablecoins as part of a whole lot of new different products.
Okay, awesome. I needed to know where the lines in the sand were drawn because Christian's about to like unleash. So Christian, I'm gonna let you jump in and do your favorite thing. You can baseline the counter argument, but I'm gonna stop you at like a minute in. So everybody
So stablecoins are intellectual time travel to the times back when we had commodity money. So this is a silver coin, meaning that the functions of money have been separated a long time ago. So you need to implement the technology accordingly. So the functions of money, as explained in 1786 by a guy called Jevons, were the ones that you all got probably taught at some point in time in school or in business school. So it's a unit of account, a medium of exchange, and a store of value. Well, no one thinks of money today as a store of value. It's an inflationary thing. We have accepted this as fact. The default medium of exchange are bytes. It doesn't matter what you're transferring, they're just bytes. Mostly they're bytes stored in some form of DLT or database, right? And that doesn't matter if you call that yen, dollars, euro, Pokemons, or Bitcoin, they're all bytes. So that leaves as the single remaining function of money, like the way that everyday people understand this, that of unit of account, meaning it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. So you need to implement all these functions separately. You don't want to reinvent it and conflate the functions. That's exactly what brought us into this particular trouble, right? Because we're still treating it, for the most part, as it was a store of value. Don't do that. So you want to avoid inflationary products. Avoid it. Right? So build the technologies to avoid fiat. And whenever you move out of it, i.e. you use it for payment, well, you shave something off an actual asset. That's what people already do in practical terms. You store your value in real estate, stocks, and other instruments. You don't store it in cash. You keep as much cash around as you expect to spend. It's a form of spending. So right now, all the stablecoins, well, most of them are just pegs, right? And which means they're inflationary. Right? Even though there's DeFi instruments, obviously, where you can make interest on them. And that's an intermediary, awesome, great step to defeat inflation. I'll stop here. I can go for an hour.
So I immediately want to call on Ms. Sam. Are you still on the line with us?
I am. Can you hear me better?
We can, and thank you so much. It is improved.
Great. Okay. Thanks.
So Christian, in a bubble, 30-second wrap up that we should not have inflationary pieces. Did I catch all? You want to summarize that one more time?
Yeah, I mean, for the longest time in the future, we will still use something that's denominated in US dollars for the most part. Like whenever fiat currencies collapse, all the experiments obviously always collapse, people reverted back to their secondary language. So they reverted back to the US dollar. So if you go to Venezuela today, people have printed US dollar cash.
Right.
So that's the secondary language. So,
right.
so you need to
flip it the other way. And Sam, I'm actually going to ask you if you can make the case for stablecoins as to why we need them, because you've done a ton of research into the mechanics behind them.
Well, people want to know a lot about stablecoins. And first and foremost, I am just here to educate on them. I am neither for or against them because I feel like they have their case uses, but I am not a fan of them. So I want that to be known first and foremost. Secondly, they are absolutely wonderful. And I think the cryptocurrency community needs to embrace them for one reason. They are a gateway to what we truly desire, which is a decentralized economy. And stablecoins are definitely a way to do that. I mean, think about it. One of the top 3 banks in America is JP Morgan. Well, JP Morgan launched JP Morgan Coin, and they are actually
they They did not launch it.
Well,
I just actually talked to the guy at JP Morgan yesterday. It was a thought experiment. They have not launched it. It was a PR stuff.
Well,
I know this for a fact.
Thank you. About 6 months ago, I wrote an article on it. They had contacted and they had said that they were in beta in 3 of their banks in North America. No. So that's the information that I'm sharing with. And as let's say that they go full on again, and let's say that Facebook Libra goes full on. Stablecoins are a gateway to everybody using cryptocurrency, and people being very volatile and arguing that they're not are missing an opportunity to educate somebody on why they should use cryptocurrency. You know, nobody wanted to use digital cash at first either. You know, I remember looking back, you know, almost 20 years ago and people saying it was of the devil. I'm in the Midwest. So,
I remember. I'm also old enough to remember those pneumatic tubes that went, you know, for the banks. So I do think it's important to educate. And sorry, because we're going to run out of time and we're already super behind. But I do think it's really important to educate folks about the mechanics of the global economic engine, why certain things are volatile, why stable coins behave differently, why it's not an apples to apples comparison. I do think that this really ties into the concept of, you know, what is blockchain in and of itself? And we could go really far down that road. But Alex, you haven't had a lot of time to chat. Would you like to weigh in on some of the blockchain dynamics of the global economic engine?
Sure. I have a bunch of notes, but I don't know how much time I have. So I think that we have 3 basic problems. We have a supply shock, we have a demand shock, and we have a market shock all happening. And at the end, we have our election shock with should we go and have mail-in votes. So since this is the state of blockchain, it's incredible to me that we aren't making a better use case for all these kinds of things. Everybody I know who's trying to deal in these masks and glove markets is telling me that 99% of all the people they're dealing with are fraudulent. So it just seems to me that we should be moving our supply chain data and transparency and our rating of different kinds of vendors and people all onto blockchains where anybody can go and use a blockchain explorer and look at it and just see, is this an honest person or not? Like, why do we have to start from scratch? A friend of mine, Tony Greenberg, has a blog. It's called Only Time Builds Trust. But what's interesting about the Bitcoin blockchain is I call it the atomic clock of money. So every 10 minutes or so, you know, you've known what the supply of Bitcoin is going to be. And with the US dollar, I mean, what is it? Who can tell me now how many dollars there are where in the world? You can Google what the supply of Bitcoin is, and you can't Google what the supply of US dollars is. There may be, and there's now a $450 billion secret fund. Also for voting, I don't know why we're not doing voting on the blockchain. They've done this in Moscow and other places. It's worked. Liquid democracy. Basically, you can be voting on a lot of these things. So I think that for the demand problem, the supply problem, the markets problem, the voting problem, and the trust problem overall, and the rating problem of people, and even ID. Just before this conference started, it was announced that Apple and Google are working together and giving basically contact information tracking for 3 billion people. Why on earth would we want to centralize our data with Google, given how much they've misused our data? And every place you look, you find that they have whatever they said they were doing with the data, they've done more with that. Why would we want to all have our purchasing habits and our location habits while we're on lockdown in this participatory panopticon go to people who are just going to push it through their ad tech machinery?
I would concur, and I know that Christian has said this before. Google is basically only exists to sell you shit. So that's the infrastructure that we have there. So Beatles, I'd like to give you and Nick a quick moment here to kind of wrap up. And then we're going to have to move to the next panel. So we can continue this conversation in chat. And I think most of you will be back for additional panels this afternoon.
Sure. Just to briefly touch on the on the stable tokens and stable coins. I mean, every fiat currency out there is inflationary. All the problems that Christian talked about is the same problems you have with every paper currency. For people to start using real cryptocurrency in day-to-day transactions, you need to have a crypto that's stable, that's not volatile, that's backed by, the fiat currency baskets. And so that's how people will start using them, in my opinion. I mean, as far as wrapping up, I mean, in the world we live in right now, it's crazy. People are, terrified. There's so many incredible and horrible things going on in the world right now. It's kind of like we're living in a movie. And so there's going to be a great chance for people to really accelerate blockchain, accelerate their income, make some crazy investment money, or go the opposite side of that coin and end up losing everything. So people need to be very careful in this market and figure out exactly what they want to do, why they want to do it, and how they're going to survive it. So I wish Godspeed everybody.
Thanks, Beatles. Mr. Nick.
Yeah, I disagree with the premise of stable coins, but obviously they're going to exist. What I'm going to say is kind of an amalgamation of everything that has been said. Consolidation, right? The internet era, the internet bubble popped, and the companies consolidated and created the world we live in today. We need to do the same thing as cryptocurrencies and as blockchain projects. It's important to have on and off ramps, as Christian said, that are free, basically. We need to drive the fees to zero, and maybe we can subsidize those fees with stable coins or with other fiat currencies. Maybe that's how they're used in the future. I envision an ecosystem that is seamless, is easy to reconcile, and is easy to access and use. I feel like that is really what brings about mass adoption, not each individual person's narrative, because we're going to compete in our narratives no matter what. We need to consolidate the value chain, and that's how we'll achieve the adoption that we're after, in my opinion.
I love it. It comes down to transparent education and getting my grandma on board with this stuff. Well, thank you guys so much for joining. I would love to give everyone more time. I highly encourage you guys to actually come back and participate in the next one, or a special, Blockchain Versus. Happy to dive deep into all of this, because, man, this just was not enough time to unpack everything. So thank you, everyone, for being on, and we are going to get ready for the next panel, which is, I've already forgotten which one. Oh, this is going to be the COVID.
Thank you, Christina.
Live Q&A. This will be big. All right. Thanks, everyone.
God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate it.